Perfect. Wonderful. All right, we good to go.
Aha.
Therapy session starts.
We should like act like therapists tonight. People can, well, actually, I don't know how that would turn out.
For each other?
Yeah, maybe for each other. I don't know if we want to be therapists for people on Twitter.
I don't know if we're going to be as positive as usual.
It's going to be rough. Not going to lie.
Um,
Turn this volume down and I'm good to go.
There's a lot that happens.
I have a few fun stories to tell you guys later. Remind me.
Ooh, juicy.
All right, ladies, let's do it.
Are we ready?
Nope.
Better get ready. We got 3 days. All right, everyone. Welcome into episode number 41 of That's What B Said. We've titled this episode the one where we don't even know where to start. I am your host, Bree at Breezy Clee, and I'm joined by Miss Mollis at Bird's Eye View. Hey, Britt.
Hello, everyone.
Oh, look at
Our mood tonight is so somber.
Gloom
We need
and
to change
doom.
that. Ugh.
I
Blech.
know. We got Meredith here too at MK on Sports. Hi, Mare.
Evening, ladies.
I wore my hair back today because I just didn't have the energy after that exhausting day yesterday. So I'm slicked back. I told Brittany before you logged on, Mare, I'm trying to look more like a man so that people respect my takes.
There you go.
You know, Dale's on Twitter.
Yeah.
You homemaker.
No homemakers on this podcast.
Got called a homemaker today. I don't make anything, just FYI.
Except that bread.
That's right.
Oh.
And some babies. Okay. It's already too much. Okay. All right, ladies. Well, we can't avoid this topic forever.
Mhm.
So, as we know, the Browns had their opening debut yesterday under Coach Zaddy. It did not go well. They got destroyed. 38-6 was the final. I'm so disappointed. We're going to break down a little bit, get into some takeaways on each side of the ball. But just overall, we've been huge supporters of Kevin Stefanski. Andrew Berry, up to this point in time, obviously from an offseason standpoint, you can't win games. We had a chance yesterday to win a game, not even close to winning a game, not even close to tying the game. So I'm going to start with you, Brittany. How did you think Coach Stefanski did yesterday?
Yeah, we're
Be
not calling him
honest.
Zaddy right now.
He doesn't deserve to be called a Zaddy.
Does he have to earn back the
He
Zaddy
has to
status?
earn it. Like earning your stripes. Earn
I
your
feel like
Zaddy.
we are unfairly like put on the spot here. So like everything that he does wrong, people are going to be throwing it in our faces specifically. I don't think that's fair. Number one, like it's our coach. We were like excited for Freddie too.
Yes, exactly.
Probably not as excited, but you know, whatever. So to answer your question, so I have like layered answer here. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Peel it
Okay.
back.
So first of all, I think he had a lot of things working against him, obviously. Number one, Baltimore is just a very good team, period.
Yes.
And that in and of itself is incredibly frustrating because as I was watching the game yesterday, I was like, damn it, they just make it look so easy.
Yeah.
Like this is Lamar's, was it third season? Yeah, it heading into third season. So it wasn't that long ago that they implemented like a brand new offense to fit all of his strengths. And, you know, it was a risk. Lamar, we remember he fell to 32nd. A lot of teams passed on him. But, you know, they went all in on him. And we see how that played out for them. We see, and now it just looks effortless. You know, they had that drive for 99 yards yesterday. And you're just like, God damn, like, why can't we do that? And so that's just, it's hard playing Baltimore anyway. Secondly, a new system takes time. And I know that Browns fans are tired of hearing that because, you know, we switch regimes so much and we have different systems and new head coaches and all these new pieces and blah, blah, blah. And we're like, oh, just be patient, be patient. But, you know, it really does. And then, you know, we had the whole COVID thing. So the off season was a little wonky. You know, I'm not going to, they weren't alone in their poor performance. There was a lot of like terrible football yesterday. There was some good football too, but there was a lot of terrible football. So it's not all in the Browns. I'm trying to be positive. I really am.
I appreciate it.
But I think we talked about this earlier. I think the thing that bothered me the most is that we saw a lot of the same mistakes. Like it looked like it could have been a Freddie Kitchens game. And
Yes.
that was something I expected to lose. I think we all expected to lose, but maybe I just expected to lose differently than we lost.
Yeah.
So
I think that's a really good way of putting it, actually.
that's it. That's
Yeah.
what I got for you.
Meredith, I'd love to hear your takes on Coach yesterday.
So I think the hardest part, and Brittany touched on it a little bit with the continuity that they've had in Baltimore. Like Lamar's not working, with a lot of different things the way, I mean, Baker has had how many head coaches in the past 5 years, including college, and how many offensive coordinators? Yeah, he's just been like, there's been so much change, and it's hard to get better when everything is so inconsistent. And I think, and I was thinking about this a lot yesterday, and I think the hardest part is we expected bad football because there was no preseason. There were no proper off-season workouts. Guys had to work out on their own. They weren't even allowed in their facilities until a few weeks ago. But the Ravens did not look like they had the same off-season issues that the rest of the team was working with. I feel like this would not have been as painful of a loss if the Ravens were looking as sloppy as the Browns were for the same reason, with the dumb penalties and the over underthrown passes and all the stuff that you would expect from a team that hasn't had the time to work together. But the fact that the Ravens just made everything look so effortless and so easy, and they looked like one cohesive unit. And I think that's what made the Browns loss so much more painful, is because they did not look like they were struggling with COVID in the off season.
Struggling with COVID.
Yeah.
You guys both mentioned it. Obviously, the Ravens in and of themselves are a Super Bowl contending team. They are. So like you mentioned, Brittany, right out of the gate, that's a really tough matchup to begin with, without all of the extra things that the Browns had going against them. And we don't want to make excuses and sit here and make excuses, but you do have to acknowledge that that's a really good football team. They have the possibility of going to the Super Bowl and winning it. So that's step number one. Huge matchup. I was a little bit surprised yesterday at how easy they were passing the ball, because you expected for Lamar and Ingram and J.K. Dobbins to just run all over us.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say from a pass perspective, I was not expecting him to throw as much as he did. And that was pretty deflating to me at the very beginning, because, even if you were to stop them from a run, he was getting his passes. They were accurate. They were on target. And the reality is they didn't have to really be on target because we didn't have anyone covering. Like there was nowhere near the receiver. So I guess when you look at it that way, maybe it wasn't that difficult, but I that was a really tough matchup. But like you mentioned, Brittany, it looked like the team of last year. Yeah. And we're going to touch on the different groups here going into it. So to break down the game, what we wanted to do is kind of split this up by offense, defense, and special teams, go over just a few negative and a few positive takeaways from the game yesterday. If there are any positives, we tried, we're scraping. So we're going to start with the offense. So we've got a long list of negatives that we've written down, not very many positives coming out of this. So I don't want to steal your lady's thunder at all with this. So I'm going to start with you, Meredith, on anything from the offensive side. Do you want to start with positives?
Sure. Let's.
That was the longest pause ever.
I know. Well, because it took me a second to think about.
It's hard.
Positives.
It's hard.
Yeah. Well, I think one positive is that Kareem Hunt showed that he earned his contract. Yes. Which is it's good and a bad thing. Like he's got a very team-friendly contract. So if he keeps performing and keeps getting better, the way he has been, when his contract is up in 2 years, he is going to get paid. But yeah, I think it's obvious that the Browns and Andrew Berry specifically are still, kind of keeping him at an arm's length, because he did get into a little bit of trouble after Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski took over the team, but they clearly see something in him to give him a 2-year extension. So even though it is a very team-friendly contract, he pretty much showed on Sunday why he earned that 2-year extension. So I think that was a positive. I really like the way David Njoku was playing. It made me feel happy that I stand so hard from him in the offseason, even after it was talking about a trade and wanting out of here. And I'm like, no, he's not the one begging for a trade. It's his awful agent. So yeah, I was happy about, but he's on the IR now, which is not.
So that was news
great.
coming out of today. I don't think it really, okay, let me rewind here. With David Njoku, he was like the one bright spot of the entire offense yesterday in terms of making some clutch passes. He caught the ball, which has been something that he struggled with. He had the touchdown catch. He was consistent. And I would have expected Austin Hooper to get most of those targets yesterday, which that surprised me. But David Njoku stepped up when we needed him to. And of course, now he's injured and on the IR. So we will not be seeing David Njoku for a few weeks now.
Of course.
I think 3 games is.
Yeah. So, but hey, the good news is we have Austin Hooper, who can hopefully step in and play that role that we assumed he would be playing anyway. And then Harrison Bryant, the rookie. Brittany, do you want to touch on do we have any more positives?
The one positive, and you know how I mentioned that it felt like a Freddie Kitchens game. The only difference really that I saw, and this could be applied to, offense, defense, whatever, there wasn't as many penalties as we saw last year.
Yes, good point.
Less than 18 penalties. Do we remember what our overs and unders were?
I do. Well, I mean, I had it from last week. A lot of them are irrelevant because we didn't even get one of things. So that was bad.
That is a good thing. And that was one of the things that drove us crazy as fans last year is all the penalties just killed them. They were so undisciplined, so all over the place. They weren't ready. So that was a positive from yesterday. There was not as many penalties. And I sort of expected there to be more because, everything that happened in the offseason and trying to get everything together. This is first time really out there under a new head coach and stuff. I expected there to be more. So there wasn't. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the positive takeaway from the game.
There you go.
That's it.
All right. So going back into the offense, I'm going to bullet point out some negatives. I want you guys to identify what you think is the most concerning about the offense, or can we just kind of throw this game out of the way? And do we think that this will be a recurring theme or not? So I'm going to list it out. People weigh in on Twitter, if you're listening, of what you kind of took away as well. So number 1, we only scored 6 points. And when you look at obviously all of the offensive weapons that we have, I would have expected us to have more points than 6, especially even if we would have expected a loss out of this. I mean, scoring more than 1 touchdown would have been great. Yeah. We abandoned the run game pretty early on. Obviously, when you're playing from behind, I can understand why that happens. But again, we just never established the run. Number 3, Baker still looked pretty uncomfortable and pretty inaccurate at times. And one thing that we wanted to recommend to everybody, if you haven't read the article from Jake Burns, he put out a great article really recapping all of Baker's plays, throws, concerns that he's seeing based on some habits that seem to be forming. So we will retweet that article out and make sure you guys go read that. I don't know if it'll make you feel any better, just FYI.
It made me feel a whole lot worse because yesterday I remember texting you guys during the game. I was like, guys, I don't think Baker looks that bad. And then I read this article and I'm like, okay, never mind. I don't know anything.
Well, yeah. And it's disconcerting also because Pro Football Focus, who is, king nerd analytics numbers, like everything they do is based purely on numbers.
Yeah.
And they have been very pro Baker since his freshman year. They've been pro Baker since his first season. I think I'm still in college over here. They've been very, very pro Baker throughout this whole process, even through the Hugh Jackson era, through the Freddie Kitchens era. And then I was reading Pro Football Focus earlier today, and they're starting to say a lot of the same things that Jake was saying in that it's time to start worrying. And the fact that we have 2, independent film study people in Jake Burns and the people at Pro Football Focus
Mhm.
independently coming to the same conclusion, that worries me.
No bueno. Yeah, so we can talk about Baker a little more here. And upon reading that article, again, Brittany, I did not feel good after that.
No.
And last year, I think a lot of us were really quick to blame the offensive line
Mhm.
in that's what Baker's struggles were stemming from, that he didn't have enough time. He had a lot of instances yesterday
did.
where he had enough time in the pocket and he still double clutched the ball,
Mhm.
or he just was indecisive. And I
Yes.
think my biggest takeaway from Jake's article is he seems to right now be going to his first read only.
Yes.
There's no processing, doesn't feel like he's reading the defense as well. And I think that was the same issue that we saw happening last year. And I just don't think that's an offensive line issue. Unfortunately, I think that's a Baker issue. And in order for us to succeed this year, Baker's got to figure this out. So I'm just going to point out a couple of things from the article since we're talking about it. We bulleted out some key takeaways here. So that was the first, is really his seems to not be understanding how to read the defenses, or he's seeing ghosts.
Mhm.
The other thing that I noticed, this wasn't in Jake's article, actually. I think he may have touched on this a little bit, but Baker seems to have a lot of batted passes. And I think that, again, goes into really only making that decision off of his first read.
Yeah.
He seems to be throwing into the line versus, Jarvis was wide open on that first interception. And if he would have just seen that read coming,
Mhm.
he would have had Jarvis for a first down and plus some. The other thing, again, Baker's not a running quarterback. You saw yesterday Lamar Jackson, anytime there was pressure, anytime the Browns got pressure on Lamar, he would just roll out and extend the play.
Mhm.
Baker did that a little bit in his first year, but that's not something that he's comfortable doing, nor will he ever be that type of quarterback.
No.
He's also short. We know this. So if he's not a speedy quarterback and can escape when there's pressure coming, we need him to be accurate and to be able to read the defense.
Yeah, I think he's sort of falling into a space where he doesn't trust himself.
Yeah.
Like whatever confidence he had back in 2008, I don't see that anymore. I think now he second guesses everything. He doesn't seem to trust his own vision. It's the first read and that's it. And like, it's going to continue to be a problem. And I wrote down in here, I was watching a First Take today, and they were, everyone gets hung up on height and quarterback size and everything. And I get that to an extent. But they were comparing Baker to, like Drew Brees or Russell Wilson, where you have these guys that, they're not, 6'4", but they have other things. So, Russell Wilson, he's very fast.
Yep.
Drew Brees, he is super accurate.
Yep.
But then you look at Baker and you're like, okay, what's that thing that he needs to be successful at this level? Here's my idea, because this is how I go through life. I'm like, okay, well, I'm never going to be like, I'm never going to be like the prettiest or the smart, but the smartest. But then I'm like, well, can I be the nicest? So like, that's what I try to work for. I'm never going to be these two things, but can I be this? Can I do this really well? What is that thing that Baker is going to do really well that makes him successful? Do you think it's possible for him to just get smarter? Because Jake Burns talks a lot about how, this is a chess match.
Yeah.
You have to be 2-3 steps ahead of people. Baker's really lacking in that department. Do you think that's something that he could maybe work on or get better at? Is that his thing? Is something else going to be his thing? Like, what is it? Or is it just not going to work? I don't want to say that yet, but people are thinking it. I saw people photoshopping Trevor Lawrence into Browns uniforms today. Gross. But,
Yeah, there's the tank for Trevor and fail for Fields. I think I've seen both of those.
Oh, God.
Just
Here we go.
FYI.
Here we go. I don't know. I don't, what do you guys think? Is there something that he can excel in that maybe he's not yet? Based on what we have seen, what is his strength? Because he used to be really accurate in college, probably not so much anymore. Although
Yeah, and we
he got a few good
we saw
throws,
the
but-
accuracy in 2018, and he
Yeah.
seemed to trust what he was seeing. And
Mhm.
I keep going back to 2018 as well, and maybe I shouldn't. Like maybe that was an anomaly that I shouldn't be looking at that anymore. But something in between 2018 to now just doesn't have him trusting his vision, his receivers. He obviously switched his footwork this year. That's been a big topic of conversation leading into the season. So, is he still trying to get comfortable with the new footwork? We're going to get into the receivers and the chemistry and all of that stuff in a little bit too. But I think specifically for Baker, man, his confidence, he needs to get that back. And what I was texting you guys about earlier today was just the fact that it seemed like there were moments where Baker was accurate and where he did make a good read, but then something else happened where it failed. So it was either the receiver didn't catch a pass or a play broke down and we didn't convert.
Yeah.
And it's like when that happens and then you have the batted passes, the interception, nothing is clicking with the offense at all. And it's really deflating when that happens. And then you also have the moment of we recover a fumble, we march down the field, we're getting into field goal position, potentially adding points on the board, and then we march ourselves back to a 3rd and 41. What that just like we're just shooting ourselves in the foot.
I didn't know that it could go that high. I was like 3rd and 40. What is this?
Just don't even put the number up, right?
Yeah, at that point, can't you just say 3rd and long just to make us feel better?
Anything. Just looking at that and seeing 3rd and 41, be like, oh my God, how did we get here?
Yeah.
How does anyone get here?
Yeah, like what type of play do you call on that?
I mean, what third and 41 is like what it would be if I was the quarterback.
Like, do you think they have in their playbook, like, this is the play we will run for a 3rd and extremely long?
If they don't now, they should.
They will now be prepared. Meredith,
but
anything else you want to add on Baker before we're going to get into the wide receivers, running backs here in a minute? I
love Brittany's point of, what does Baker need in order to excel? Because he doesn't have the speed that Lamar Jackson does. He doesn't have the height that someone like Trevor Lawrence, because I think Trevor Lawrence is like 6'5" or something ridiculous like that. But I like the idea of him getting smarter, because that sort of goes back to what Jake was saying with his reads, where I have a feeling that's probably why OBJ, which I know we're going to get into, OBJ got 28% of his targets yesterday, is because that was probably the first place he was looking. He was immediately looking at OBJ. And then instead of, scanning the field, checking down the field, he's trying to force the ball to OBJ. So I think Brittany's idea of him getting smarter is best case scenario, because then that's going to be him being able to figure out defenses and being able to just sort of, read the field and what's in his head, and I don't know, maybe he can be like the king of audibles and like really piss off Alex Van Pelt. I don't know. Just, throw the playbook out the window and call your own plays on the field. I don't know, just something.
Yeah. And I know everyone keeps saying like he's the same height as Drew Brees, same height as Russell Wilson, but we've already talked about Russell Wilson. He has the ability to use his legs. That's just not who Baker is. I think with Drew Brees, he's very accurate. He's not going to use his legs. I think if you want to compare Baker to anyone, that's the guy to model this game after. But right now, Baker's accuracy is not there either. Like, so he's not at that stage to say, oh, we'll just develop an entire offense like what they do for Drew Brees. Because I think right now, Baker's almost back at square one. It's almost like he's a rookie all over again, unfortunately. And it almost felt like with some of the plays that they were running, they were trying to keep it simple for him. But I think without all the fan noise too, I don't know, was the defense able to identify what they were running? Like, was that so much easier for them to identify and then therefore making it harder on Baker because they already knew what was coming? And I think we ran into a lot of that last year as well with Freddie Kitchen, and a lot of the teams, a lot of the defenses knew the play that the Browns were going to run. That's what it seemed like to me yesterday. There was no disguise, no play action, not a ton of play action, honestly.
No. Do you think that they looked more, I don't know if prepared is the right word, but you know how like last year there was articles and stuff written about it. The players said they went into games and they would just abandon their plan.
Yes.
Do you think that happened yesterday? Maybe is that like a difference that we didn't point out yet? Do you think this was a plan? Do you think what happened yesterday was any part of a plan, or do you think they abandoned? They had a plan to begin with. You know, at least last year we got like the good opening drive, right?
Yeah.
Like we got
that was
that.
pretty consistent. That was the only thing consistent really game to game was the opening drive.
Yes. And then after that it was gone. But you know, I don't know. I don't know.
This was my theory. It honestly felt like this was our preseason script. Like the entire first quarter felt like they were just trying things out. It was very, very odd to me. And I think especially when the fake punt happened.
Oh God.
Where I'm fine if you want to try a fake punt, but maybe like not in the first quarter when you actually have a chance to still be in the game. And I understand that there was a blown block that we probably would have gotten the first down and it would have been fine. But yeah, it felt a little bit odd to me at the beginning. I was scratching my head a little bit.
Yeah. And also I was going to say the Ravens are not the team that you want to be,
just
trying.
Out.
Yeah. That they're not the team that you want to get cute with.
No.
Yes, I agree. So that Coach Stefanski, that was the one thing where I was like, oh no. What is you doing? That was a Freddie Kitchens move.
Well, and also
what was it? The oh gosh, against the Rams last year, the draw play.
Oh my God.
And then the
I'm trying to forget
intentional penalty.
Oh God.
I was reading somewhere that your brain has this thing where when you go through extremely traumatic events, your brain actually erases the memory to like save yourself. So my brain keeps erasing that third and draw play. And then people keep reminding me of it. But I also wonder, because I've heard this a lot from a lot of former head coaches, in that managing a game and calling plays, like essentially they're both of them in and of themselves are two full-time jobs. So it's very, very like some coaches are really, really skilled at doing that and some aren't. And I almost feel like Kevin Stefanski may have been biting off a little more than he can chew by calling plays in the first game. I also understand why he did it.
Yeah.
Because I think for them, and this is just kind of how I'm reading it, is that it's easier to start with Stefanski as the play caller and then transitioning those responsibilities over to Alex Van Pelt rather than the other way around. So if AVP was calling plays yesterday and that game looked like that, and then all of a sudden Stefanski is like, oh no, now I have to manage this game and call plays.
Yeah.
So I think it makes sense that they're doing it that way, but I've just heard one too many times how difficult it is to manage a game and call the plays at the same time. So what I'm hoping is that there is going to be a transition over into Alex Van Pelt calling these plays, and then maybe these things will get easier for the Browns.
I have a positive, I think, kind of piggybacking off of that, Meredith. I think Kevin Stefanski does not seem like the type that will let his ego get in the way. Versus Freddie Kitchens, I think, was very insistent that he needed to play the calls, and it was his offense. And then you had Hugh driving the bus. It doesn't feel like Kevin Stefanski will let his ego be an issue for this team moving forward. So I hope that is one positive, is that just from a personality standpoint, hopefully he is mature and doesn't feel like he has to be a hero in this situation.
Absolutely.
All right. So we're going to cover off on a couple of more things from the offensive side. So let's get into the playmakers. So we definitely did not get the playmakers involved. OBJ was a big topic of conversation yesterday. It was interesting. OBJ, I don't even think had gotten a target until the second quarter. Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, it looked very promising from a run game perspective early on. We obviously abandoned that once we started to get behind and play from behind. Jarvis Landry, I think, got a couple of touches. Hooper really didn't get many targets. I think, to me, this is one of the most frustrating things, is that you have a room full of offensive weapons to help Baker out, yet we can't figure out how to utilize them. And I watch other teams distribute the ball across multiple playmakers. And you saw it with the Ravens.
Mhm.
J.K. Dobbins, Mark Ingram, 2 running backs, they were involved in the offense. Both did very well.
Mhm.
Freaking Willie Snead looked like a Pro Bowl or wide receiver, FYI,
Mm.
former Cleveland Brown. That was annoying.
Of course
Marquise
he
Brown
did.
obviously had a great game as a receiver, but you see them getting multiple people involved. And for us, there's no rhyme or reason. I mean, Kadarrell Hodge was in way more than I would have wanted to see him. And I have
Mhm.
no idea why over Higgins, over
Mhm.
OBJ in some instances.
Mhm.
So that was really odd to me. And I'm not quite understanding what those decisions stemmed from.
No.
I
I
don't
remember
know what you
remember
guys think about that.
last year when we were talking about, Freddie Kitchens, he fell into this trap where it seemed like at times he was trying to get too cute, and instead of just doing the very simple things well, he would worry about, like tricking them or doing whatever. I don't think Kevin Stefanski's going to do that, but to me, and I'm just a fan, but looking at the amount of talent on this team, it's hard to imagine situations where you're just not getting it together. Like you have and OBJ did not help himself yesterday. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But Jarvis Landry should get the ball more. You should never abandon the run if it's working. You have such a great, running back duo. They should be getting more than, I think they got, was 23 total touches. And then there were parts of the game where they just weren't even there. And it's just like, it seems like simple things that should be implemented more. And it's confusing as to why they're not. I hope that he's not going into that Freddie Kitchens thing where he's like trying to outsmart them. Just hearing that makes me laugh. Freddie Kitchens trying to outsmart people, but he did. He thought that he was like the smartest one in the room for some reason. But I don't think we're gonna have to worry about that Stefanski. But it's all very confusing right now. Yesterday was a very confusing game.
Yes.
I mean, it might go back to what Jake Burns was saying about Baker and only going with his first read.
Yeah.
Because he could, have that habit of, always looking at OBJ for the very first time, or like always looking at Kareem Hunt for the very first time. And then just straight up going with that rather than like looking down the field and saying, okay, well, OBJ is not really open right now. Like, let me look for a different receiver. Let me look for a different tight end. Because I remember last year and even into part of his rookie year, one of the things he talked about was the game slowing down for him because the first time he started and things were just coming at him so fast and it was overwhelming. And, he was saying with every game, yeah, it feels like the game is slowing down for me. And I think that's maybe where he is right now, is that maybe the game just isn't, to him, it's not slowed down. I think that's one of the reasons why he was so successful in 2018, because I remember that's what he kept saying over and over again is, oh, the game is slowing down for me. But yeah, I mean, when you have the amount of offensive weapons that he does, man, it's like, I don't know. It's like a kid in the candy store, but then you still just go to your favorite candy every single time instead of trying every single candy.
Yeah. I actually don't know at this point though who his favorite is. It's very confusing just based on some of the players that are on the field. There's
Is there a favorite?
I don't think so. And okay, so let's just get right into it. The OBJ debate. I'm sick of having this conversation. I am sick of
Yeah, let's talk about this.
I don't know how you guys feel, but
I have lots of thoughts on OBJ.
Okay. So we were super stoked to get OBJ. What, a year and a half ago? It's been a year and a half. Everybody wants him off the team. Everyone thinks the Browns will be better with OBJ off the team. Everybody thinks Baker will be better with OBJ off the team. I think this is a very, very interesting take because you could have looked at yesterday, and I don't know if Baker is concerned about getting OBJ touches, but it definitely felt like OBJ mentally was not there, in a sense of he was letting the Ravens get into his head. He was clearly frustrated. There were times when Baker underthrew him. Then you have the dropped 3rd and 2 pass that he was wide open on, should have caught. That was horrible. So you have some instances where he's frustrated. He feels like he's probably getting grabbed a little bit. He also is getting underthrown. And if you go back and look at a couple of throws where Baker missed him, I mean, OBJ had a couple of yards of separation. There were also instances where OBJ was wide open and didn't get the ball, and Baker's trying to force it to someone else. So for whatever reason, I continue to go back to, I can understand the frustration as a player. I think you saw Kareem Hunt get frustrated on one play as well. And I think it was on the 3rd and 2 pass that OBJ dropped. Kareem Hunt was, I think, streaking down the sideline wide open. I'm pretty sure he would have ran for another 10 yards, if not been gone for a touchdown, unless someone would have picked him up. But I can understand the frustration. I don't know if I'm ready to say right now that OBJ is the problem and that if he leaves the team, that everything's going to be solved.
Mm. So I'm with you in that I don't think that that's the problem. That's not it. It's not working. I don't think it's unfair to say that. I think since OBJ came, we saw a different version of Baker back in 2018. I don't know what happened or why there seems to be this reoccurring problem. And again, we're only one game into the season, and I understand, but for whatever reason, those two just don't seem to be clicking on anything. And I'm sort of curious at this point what it's like watching them in practice. Are they like this? Like, when they're not in games, is it more fluid when it's just the team? I don't know. But I'm not there yet where I'm going to say OBJ needs to be traded, but I'm now at the point where I'd be willing to say, okay, maybe at some point, if this continues, OBJ can be great. Maybe he's just not the right fit for this offense. I don't know. But then it gets into the whole thing where you're like, okay, but maybe Baker's the problem and OBJ isn't, and with another quarterback.
Can I ask you a question, though? How many times have we asked ourselves, or how many times have we witnessed a player leaving the Browns and flourishing somewhere else?
I'm 100% certain.
You know?
Yes,
all the
I'm
time.
100% certain that would happen with OBJ. Like, no doubt.
Sure.
But, I don't want to see the Browns continue to struggle with this problem that doesn't seem like it's getting fixed at all. And I don't know I don't know how they go about fixing this. But how much longer do you let it go on?
So I was thinking about this a lot today. OBJ and Baker remind me a lot of, I guess, I don't know if I'm going to call him a boyfriend because we never really had that talk, but I was dating this guy for a while around the time I first moved here. And on paper, absolutely perfect. Mm-hmm. Smart, funny, stable job. We had a lot of the same interests. But like chemistry it wasn't there. Like when we first got together, everything was a lot of fun, but things fizzled out pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. And, after a while, I'd be going over to his place and we'd be hanging out and it would just, I don't know, we'd kind of both be like sitting on our phones. Mm-hmm. We weren't really paying a lot of attention to each other. And, he ended it and I was upset, not because not because it was him, but just because it ended in general. And looking back on it, it was like, yeah, like he was like on paper, it's like, this is like husband material, but there just wasn't something there between us. And that's kind of what Baker and OBJ remind me of, because like on paper, well, minus some of Baker's recent performances, but for the most part, you look at it and like OBJ is perfect on paper, but maybe it's just not the right fit for Baker. And that's not an indictment on either of them at all. OBJ is still one of my favorite receivers in the league. And if he does leave the Browns, it doesn't matter where he goes, he's still going to be one of my favorite receivers in the league. Mm-hmm. But that's sort of the feeling that I get. And then also the high school analogy that I sent you guys earlier today, I get a little bit of that too, where it's like, OBJ's the cool kid in class and he invites Baker to join his little clique because, Baker's the rich kid with a cool car. And they're like, all right, we need someone in our group with a car, come here. And then Baker's kind of like, well, got to be careful. If I say or do the wrong thing, they're going to kick me out of the club and I don't want to be sitting at the loser's table anymore. So there's I think there's a little bit of both of that. I mean, cause here's the thing, like OBJ is just, he's an intimidating person for so many reasons because he's one of the best receivers in the league. so his talent is intimidating, and he's got a huge personality, and that's also intimidating. And again, these are not indictments on OBJ. Like, anyone in any situation with a big personality can be intimidating. And I think that is something that Baker just needs to get over. Like, I think he just needs to look at OBJ and understand that they're there to help each other. They need to be there for each other, and to not be scared and to not be nervous, and to, and it's okay if OBJ goes a whole game without getting a target or a touch, as long as you're winning, because he has said that over and over again. He just wants to win.
I don't know. I think it's interesting, Meredith, because my perception of OBJ is like the opposite. Like, yeah, he got a ton of attention in New York and the one-handed catch and all that stuff, but I actually feel like here in Cleveland, he's been pretty under the radar. Like, he doesn't want to be in the spotlight. He's been talking about how he's comfortable here. I think, from what I've seen, it almost feels like he wants it to work here. And I go back to Baker, who I think has a huge personality. And I think he loves, he's clearly the guy that wants to be the underdog. He chirps back and forth. We've seen that from him time and time again. But I don't know. I still go back to, like, I think it's the one read. And I think Baker at this point doesn't have chemistry with anyone, unfortunately. Maybe Jarvis a little bit, and maybe Njoku. We thought he had it with Higgins 2 years ago. They're not even putting Higgins in. So everything is just confusing when it comes to the playmakers. And one thing I think that is going to be really important is we need to figure out what our offensive identity is. We thought it was going to be running. I hope on Thursday, and we're going to get into this because we're going to have a special show tomorrow, but I hope what we see is establishing a run game with Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, and then that opens up the passing game, takes a little bit of pressure off Baker and the receivers. And there's these little mistakes aren't going to feel like huge mistakes. So we will see, but we've talked a lot about the offense thus far. I want to make sure that we get into the defense and special teams. Don't have a ton of notes on them, but we'll go into the defense because we actually didn't have any positives. So this is the place.
Here's a positive. They did exactly what I thought they were going to do.
There you go. They met our expectations, which was nothing.
My dad and I were talking on Friday morning, I think, and we said the Ravens are going to put 40 on this defense. Like, that's just going to happen. So it's just up to the offense to keep it close. Of course, the offense did not do. They did.
I told you we were going to have to score a lot of points in order to win games.
That's got to be the plan. You just have to score as many points as you possibly can, because at least for now, this defense is going to struggle for a while. That's just, that's what it's going to be. I mean, there's really no way with the injuries, and it's a mess. And there's no way to soften that blow. It's just going to be tough for a while.
Yeah. So the defensive line is probably our bright spot of the defense, and they were a non-factor yesterday. Myles Garrett is one of the top paid players in the league, and he was a non-factor. And that's really, really frustrating to see. Now, I think a lot of that has to do with Lamar Jackson just as a quarterback. He's obviously very mobile. Anytime that they got pressure on him, he was able to escape, make a throw, make a play. I'm hoping that on Thursday against Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati team, I'm hoping that they can get some pressure on Joe Burrow and maybe cause some turnovers, maybe get a few tackles. I don't know. Not asking for much. Just do your job. Yeah, I think we have to hope that at least Myles, Olivier, Sheldon, Lario, they have a bounce back game and become a factor against the Bengals. But we will get into that more tomorrow in our special preview podcast. Look at us.
Okay.
All right. So we're going to wrap it up with special teams. We've got more content to cover tonight. Want to make sure we get to all of it. So again, special teams, not a ton of positives here either. However, we did all agree that Scottish Hammer still a pretty strong punter. We already talked about this, but the fake punt, that was bad. We don't need to.
It would have been good if it would have worked.
Yeah. And then we have a new kicker, actually a new old kicker. Shoot. Gosh. Cody Parkey, welcome back.
Oh, this day.
What's old is new again.
I'm sad that like Joey Sly was just sitting there doing nothing, and then Carolina snatched him.
This is going to be interesting.
I mean, I think it's clear that Seibert's leash was like this long because he had
Yeah.
just a terrible performance last year. And I know that Andrew Berry has said over and over again, like, there's no my guys, his guys. It's, who we have on the team right now. But I feel like going into it, I don't think that Andrew Berry was a huge fan of Austin Seibert, which is why we saw this change happen so swiftly.
Yeah. They went from, we're gathering information to just bye.
Like
They haven't
out
made a
on the
decision.
street, like, yeah, they released him, like, or they waived him, excuse me. They waived him. So they're just like, yeah, bye.
They wasted no time with that one.
Yeah. And then unfortunately, because of COVID protocols, Cody Parkey is their only option. Because I think it's not like they can just take someone up off the street and they can't just sign a free agent because there's COVID protocols that you have to go through to even get into an NFL facility. So they had to go with who they had on the practice squad, which was Cody Parkey.
Yeah. Well, I'm rooting for him. I am rooting for him.
God, I would love to see him just absolutely flourish with the Browns, especially after the performance that he had in Chicago.
Oh, I know.
Oh my God.
I would love a good comeback story.
Yeah. Can we have, we want Cody Parkey redemption over here.
Yes. All right. So now that this recap was over with, wanted to get your guys' thoughts on a couple of things that I had tweeted about that just made me think. And I want to hear what you guys think about this as well. So first of all, I was curious how people were feeling about this game one versus last year's game one against the Titans. We obviously know that was also just a disaster.
Yes.
I put the poll out on Twitter, got over 1,000 votes. I think like over 1,500 votes. The poll ended really close to 50-50, which actually shocked me because I think last year the expectations were way higher going into the season than this year.
Yeah.
But yet, and maybe this is about being just a prisoner of the moment, but a lot of people were actually feeling like yesterday was worse.
Yeah, I voted, obviously, and I voted last year. That was worse because, like you said, there was so much hype. There was so much going to it, and they had that great first drive, and they got your hopes up, and then it just went to hell. So to me, it was no contest. This one sucked. I said yesterday it felt gross, and it did. It just like I felt like I had to shower afterwards, and I was like, ugh, that was not anything. There was very little
Really
to
hard.
get excited about. But no, like comparing the two, nah. 50-50. I think people were just caught up in their emotions yesterday and it felt worse because it was the Ravens. And again, that always feels a little bit worse, but no contest for me.
Yeah. The other thing, Meredith, I'll ask you about this. Hypothetically, I was thinking, Kevin Stefanski, I believe, was the runner-up last year, head coach.
Mm.
You think it would have went any differently had he been the coach last year? Like, do you think that things could have been different?
I think they would have been. I think it also would have been difficult because this time last year, John Dorsey was still the GM.
Yeah.
And I don't see Kevin Stefanski working as well with John Dorsey the way he does with Andrew Berry, because Kevin Stefanski is very open-minded, especially when it comes to analytics. And so is AB. But, John Dorsey is football guy. So he would want to get in there and do football things and, get angry at numbers and yell at clouds and, whatever, football guys do. So I think it would have been different. I think if Kevin Stefanski had started, if Kevin Stefanski had gotten the job over Freddie Kitchens, I think he would still be here. I don't think they would have cut him. But I mean, and it's just, this is one of those things that because of how strange 2020 has been, it's really, really hard to compare anything from this year to last year because, let's say we weren't in the middle of a global pandemic. What would this team have looked like if they gotten their rookie camps and their OTAs and their, in a full training camp and a full preseason? Like this could have been a completely different game. Like in timeline number 2, where they're not in the middle of a global pandemic, this game could have been completely different. But I think, and this is sort of my thought process, I am willing to give Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry 3 years. I think they should have 3 years to prove themselves. And if by year 3, if it looks the way Sunday did, then that's when you got to make a change. And I never felt that way about Freddie Kitchens. Like I got to the point where I was like, Freddie's got to go. Like this is not working. He's not the right coach. He's not a head coach. I still believe that Kevin Stefanski has the potential to be a really good head coach.
Yeah. Just a little fact for you guys. So teams with new coaching staffs had a 1-3 record yesterday. The only team that won was Washington football team against the Eagles.
I predicted they were going to go 0-16.
Carolina lost, but they actually played pretty well. Dallas lost, and then it looks like the Giants are about to lose to the Steelers. So granted, I know some of these coaches are not first-time head coaches. They've been head coaches before, but just something to keep in mind. It'll be interesting as the season continues, but that kind of gave me some room to pause a little bit. Now, a lot of these teams looked way more prepared than the Browns did, but again, Ravens, really solid team, Super Bowl contender. So a little positive spin on that. All right, who put this question in here?
What was
Which
that
one?
Who do you think the Browns will pull the plug on first if we
I
don't
did.
see improvement? How dare you?
Oh my gosh.
It's a fair question.
No, it is fair. It is fair. And I don't want to think about that. That's tough.
I don't either. But we're at that point now, and the streets are talking,
The
ladies.
streets,
Oh my
The
gosh.
streets are talking.
I think they're going to stick with Stefanski.
I think they pull the
I
plug
think-
on Baker before they pull.
Yeah,
the plug.
I
Yeah.
think Baker's on the chopping block.
Yeah.
'Cause they're going to have to make a decision whether to pay him or not. So,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Tough
All right.
scene.
well, speaking of Twitter and really terrible things, it was miserable yesterday. Browns fans are uber dramatic. We know that. I wanted to just put something out there because I saw a lot of different Browns fans yesterday, a lot of different sides. They were all showing their faces. Which crowd of Browns fans are the most annoying? Got a couple of bullet points here. I should put this Twitter poll out. Ones that are actively rooting for failure so that they can prove their point, aka the Josh McDaniels crowd. They actually seemed overjoyed that the
I
Browns
hate them.
lost and
I
Kevin
can't
Stefanski struggled. Like,
I
what
can't
is
stand them.
happening?
I don't even need to hear the rest of the list. They are the worst.
No,
I had
I'm looking
men
at
in my mentions, angry
God.
men in my mentions yesterday,
What else is new?
talking, like throwing it in my face. It's the fans. I'm like, guys, I'm not his mother. You don't have to do this. Like, I don't own this person. I want the coach to do well. So fucking sue me because I want to see a Browns coach do well.
Right.
God forbid.
And, okay, can we just get something clear really quickly? We wouldn't have been happy had they hired McDaniels. We would not have been rooting against him. Can we all just
No.
make that very clear right now?
Ever.
Thank you.
I mean,
So-
even with Freddie, like it wasn't until about halfway through the season that, we were just like,
We
this
turned our
guy's-
backs.
Yeah. Well, because we knew he wasn't
We
going to
had
work
enough.
out, but like, but I mean, I wasn't here when Hugh Jackson got hired, but from what I have heard and from what people have told me is that people were really excited about Hugh Jackson.
They
When he
were.
got
That is
hired.
true. People were excited about Hugh Jackson.
All right. So do I need to
So,
continue
yeah.
this list? Because I feel like they win. But I'm going to keep going on with the list because there's still some pretty bad ones on here.
Yeah.
The ones that harass players online.
God, I hate
Gross.
that. Like, I hate that so much. Like, and here's the thing. I would guarantee you a majority of those players probably have their mentions and replies muted
Mhm.
just because they don't give a crap what, Dale 175769 is saying on Twitter. Like, they just don't give a shit.
Yeah. And I think I was responding to the Ronnie Harrison thing. And I think I found out today that the Jaguar fans were actually the ones like harassing him. So,
Oh
I
my
mean, but
God.
still very sad. Stop doing that. Number 3, the ones that immediately want to fire everyone, but then these are the same people that also complain about ownership firing everyone at the end of the season. So like, you can't have it both ways.
This is a tough list.
Yeah, this
Right?
is a really hard list.
And then I already said this earlier, but the trade OBJ crowd.
I mean, I don't hate them as much right now just because at least they have like
Some
a little
valid
bit of
reasons.
logic there. Like, hey, maybe this isn't the worst idea in the world, but the other 3, they can get stuffed. All 3 of them just get stuffed.
Get stuffed. Okay.
I agree.
Maybe I'll put that poll out there. We'll at least
Yeah.
put the first 3 out there.
You should put all
Right.
4 out there because that's I'd be interested to see how people feel about these different groups of people.
Yes.
All right.
Let's
Well,
do
this has
it.
been a very negative episode. Let's try to put some good vibes out there in the universe. It's what we're known for on this show. Ladies, I would like you to give me each something that the Browns fans can look forward to on Thursday night. You're both thinking.
Okay, here we go.
Go ahead. Please.
So I texted you guys earlier and I said that I think the Browns are 6-point underdogs, which is not great. That's not my
actually think they
positive
might
spin,
be-
though.
They actually might be favored, Brittany.
Are they?
I think so. My
I
husband
thought they
told
were
me.
underdogs. I don't
Someone
know.
confirm.
Please confirm, because I heard that and that broke my heart a little bit.
I wouldn't mind
In
being
any
underdogs,
case, here's the thing. We are going against a rookie quarterback. Joe Burrow, he looked, okay yesterday, but it's the first home game. Rookie quarterback Cincinnati was not that good last year. We can do this. And I'm going to rephrase it. We have to do this. Like,
Yes.
They have to win this game. They have to, or else it's going to be rough. Okay. So the Browns are 6-point favorites. Okay.
Woo.
Thank God. Because
Actually, is that good? I don't know. Is
I was
that
like
good? I don't-
demoralized when I thought that I read that and I was like, what?
Imagine
the
being
hell is this?
Cincinnati and seeing that the Browns are favored by 6 points after.
I'm going to
Meredith?
I'm going to stick with what I said a few weeks ago. Or I don't think that we should panic for the first 4 games of the season. I mean, that's pretty much the length of the preseason. And I said to start out, it was going to be a lot of ugly football, which it has been. And it is a short week. So I don't know if this is positive, but I'm trying to make it sound positive of, if they struggle on Thursday night, again, it's not the end of the world for so many reasons. Like wait until we get into week 8, 9 and see where the team is. But, if they struggle against the Bengals on Thursday night, I'm not going to panic. I'm not going to, not hitting the panic button yet. I'm going to wait until at least halfway through the season. Because again, 2020 is kind of a weird year and there's a lot of things that they're dealing with and they're all dealing with, but it's not just new head coach and Kevin Stefanski. It's not just not having their off season. They've also got brand new everything with, new GM, new head coach, new offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator, new schemes everywhere. Baker's footwork is different. Like there is so much change. It is going to take them time to settle in. So that would be my positive for Thursday night is don't panic.
Okay. My positive is I think we're going to see Myles Garrett have a nice comeback game against a rookie quarterback. I hope that happens and he takes over. So that's what I think could potentially happen. Ladies, shall we get into some questions? We got some questions earlier. I don't want to forget about them.
Yes.
Let's talk through those. And we have a few announcements that you're going to want to stick around for. I got to pull up these questions, by the way. One moment, everyone. All right. We got some good questions, actually.
We did.
Mm-hmm. That's one thing I will give it to like the girl gang Twitter that loves to follow and interact with us. Anytime we ask them for questions, whether it's sports related or non-sports related, like you guys come through with awesome questions.
Yes.
So
I
positive.
feel like we've addressed some of these already, but we will go through them. I'll start, you guys. I'll give this one to you, and if you guys can read some as well. Okay. So would the Browns linebacker core benefit from signing Clay Matthews? This has also been swirling in the streets.
The streets are talking. I'm just gonna say, they would benefit from anyone right now.
Bodies. We would benefit from bodies.
Just hurl bodies on the field at this point. I don't care. So yes, in a way, but I'm not like a huge Clay Matthews. Like I don't care.
It's the name. It's
exactly that the people fall in love with the name, and it's not for me. But again,
nostalgic.
Bodies would be nice. So sure.
Yeah. If you had asked me on Saturday, I would have said absolutely not. But after yesterday, and I think another linebacker is now on the IR. So, I mean, at this point, just get anybody in who knows the position. I was talking to someone on Browns radio earlier. It was Gerard Cherry. I know he was a safety when he was in the NFL, but I was like, hey, can you kick? can you tackle? Like, are you still in game
Suit up.
shape?
Suit up.
Anything?
And yeah, I'm like, can you fill any void that the Browns have right now? Like, I know you haven't played in a while, but still.
All right. Britt, you want to pick one?
Yeah, I like this question. Do you think the current Browns would be better if they had a less toxic fan base?
That came from Corey at 2MTL4U.
What do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think anything with less toxicity is always going to be better,
Yes.
except for the System of a Down song, because that's a really good song.
Bree, what do you think?
I would hope that the players aren't specifically impacted by the fan base, but it definitely wouldn't make me feel warm and fuzzy coming and playing for this team. So yeah, I'm going to go with Meredith on this one. Like, we don't want any toxins.
Yeah.
No. How about this one from Mickey? Oh God. Is there a case for Case?
I like that phrasing of the question, by the way. That was good.
Okay. Can I just I was explaining this to somebody, and yeah, just because like he worked with Stefanski before, I'm not jumping ship from Baker Mayfield. I'm not saying that. But like if it happens, if the chips fall that way and they're like, we're giving up, pulling the plug on this Baker Mayfield thing, sure. Throw Case in there. There's a case for Case.
Bree?
I think if they do not see the improvement from Baker as we head into the back half of the season, there is a possibility we will see Case.
So I would say the case for Case is if they want to give Baker a chip to have on his shoulder, because we've always talked about how well he operates.
Conspiracy.
Yeah, because like of how well he operates when he has a chip on his shoulder. And especially last year, felt like he had to manufacture the chips because there was so much hype.
Mm-hmm.
So, maybe they put Case Keenum in there just to jolt some life back into him and say, hey, here's a Dorito, put it on your shoulder.
Dorito. All right, I'm going to go with this one from Rick at Y-Town Rick. 1, how does Baker get back to 2018? He obviously has this within him because we saw it in his rookie year, but haven't seen it since. 2, OBJ is obviously a huge talent, but the offense seems to change for the worse when he's in there. Trying too hard to get him the ball? ?
Okay, so as far as Baker goes, 2018 Baker, we talked about this. He needs to get that confidence back. He needs to trust his vision more, get smarter. Look, we're solving all of Baker Mayfield's problems right now. We are so smart. We should be running the team.
You sound like a lot of other people I saw on Twitter today, Brittany.
Gosh, why are we genius? Hello.
I mean, Andrew Berry's about our age, so
there you go.
You're right.
OBJ, again, we talked about this a little bit. The offense seems to change for the worse when he's in there. I think they just need to stop forcing it so much. It goes back to, again, when we were talking about Baker on the first read, like that's it. So these improvements, it seems like as Baker Mayfield grows, that's when the Browns will grow. When he gets better, that's when the Browns will get better. But, I'm chilling, just waiting for improvements. I'm not hitting panic yet. I'll wait it out.
All right. We want to take one more?
Sure.
I liked this one, and I know you guys will too. This came from Solly at RSOL411. The Haslams have hired a bunch of guys coming from winning organizations like Philly, Minnesota, and San Fran. What are the odds they give these guys 3 years necessary to establish some continuity? See Aditi Kinkleballa's tweet earlier today about change, which she had a great tweet, by the way.
She did.
Stan her.
Oh my God, I love her so much. And then also, I'll say this about Aditi, just because I'm so deep into every press conference that ever happens. Her questions are a breath of fresh air. Like, if
oh my
you
gosh,
listen,
so good.
If you listen to,
Meredith, is she on these calls more because of Zoom, like because of virtual?
Yeah, I think I would say so, because she doesn't necessarily have to travel. I know for the first part of training camp, she was in Cleveland. I don't know if she actually got into the facility, because anytime I saw pictures of her, she was like out in the parking lot. But yeah, I that's one of the great things about the Zoom. I have a lot of opinions about the Zoom calls. But one of the things that I do like is the accessibility for people who aren't normally in Cleveland or any other market. So like a lot of these national people, like you've got like Andrew Siciliano, who's out in California, and he might be, in California, but he can still dial into all around the country. So I do like that.
That's been one benefit, I think, from the COVID season, is we've gotten to hear more from her and her questions.
Yes. I want to hear more Aditi, honestly. Just love her so much. This is now an Aditi Kinkhabwala stan podcast.
It is.
Or actually, it's kind of been like that since day one.
It always has been.
But
to answer Solly's question, it was Haslam, about the Haslams giving the guys 3 years. And that's actually, like, before I even saw this tweet, that was like what I had in my head was 3 years. And they have to, like, at this point, I think that there is enough proven talent on the coaching staff to give them that 3-year rope. I think that with Freddie Kitchens, his rope was a little bit short because he was unproven. And, John Dorsey had his issues in Kansas City. Like, there's a reason they fired him in Kansas City, and whatever he was doing in Cleveland obviously wasn't working out. So for those guys, I don't think it was there, but I have a lot of confidence in this coaching staff. And I absolutely think no matter what, they need to have 3 years, because there has just been too much change in this organization to really figure out how to win.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Well, that wraps up our questions. A couple of things before we end the show. So some announcements here. Number one, we're going to be recording a special episode tomorrow night. We're not going to go live, but we are going to have someone on that covers the Cincinnati Bengals. And we're going to talk to him, get some insight as to the matchup that we could see on Thursday. So look for that to be released on Wednesday morning. We announced tonight, Brittany and I are actually going to be live streaming the game against the Bengals on Thursday night via Hot Mics. So all you have to do is download the app for free, and then you can use code BSAID. We will send a reminder tweet out for that as well. It should be a lot of fun. We can be miserable together. Hopefully we'll be happy together, but you never know. So come join us. We hope to see you there. Meredith will be working, so we will miss her. And
I'll
then
be there in spirit.
there you go. And then finally, if you played in our DraftKings Fantasy League this Sunday, and you won first place, please send me a DM. We have a fun prize. We will be doing this every single week. I will be tweeting out a new link every Saturday. So make sure as soon as you see that link, you set your lineup. It got full super fast, and we max out at 200 entries. So we will be doing prizes all year long. I finished in a very sad 118th place out of 200.
I finished 190th out of 200.
Oh, I think Meredith, you were 120. Like, you were right after me.
Oh, really? Oh, I haven't checked. So, friend of the show, also, one of my really good friends, at the Tone Stallone, he and I are like in a competition with each other where we're just like, we don't care who we beat as long as like we beat each, and he beat me by like 3 positions. And I'm like, damn it.
Yeah, we had a bunch of random people that joined the league. So we have no idea how they got in, but I'll do a better job of releasing this as soon as I create the league. So we'll have lots of Cleveland Girl Gang people in. So that was fun.
Also, speaking of Cleveland Girl Gang, before we go, Jenna has created a bunch of brand new merchandise for football season. And she has a sale going on through midnight tonight. I don't remember what the code is, but you can go to her Twitter, or you can go to Beleza and Styles Twitter. And I retweeted it. We'll all retweet it. But yeah, if you want to get some of that awesome Girl Gang merch on a discount, her code is good through midnight tonight.
Yay.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us. I feel a little bit better after chatting with all three of you.
I do feel better.
A little bit.
I do.
We worked through our sadness together.
It was a therapy session.
Yeah.
That's exactly what
Got a few more days, and then we'll see if we have to go through this all over again. But nonetheless, you guys will hear from us on Wednesday, and then we will see hopefully a lot of you on Thursday. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to us on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever you listen to your podcasts. And we will see you guys soon. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.